That is a different approach to that ledge. Congratulations, my friend.
Oh!
Oh, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is Overland Weekly, episode number 21. My name is Davey. I am your host, and I am joined tonight by a gentleman that if you have spent any time watching the kind of off-road YouTube scene, you should recognize. From 24 Hell and Back, from Rain of Rocks, and most recently the Hell and Back Adventure Series, from the Flex Rocks and Rollover channel, Mr. Marvin Stammel. Marvin, welcome to the show.
Beautiful intro. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Well, you know, I had to start since you've got Flex Rocks and Rollovers in the name, and this wasn't quite a rollover; it's a flop. But this was my buddy Mike just a couple of months back at Hawk Pride. He thought he was going to try a new line on this little ledge, and it didn't work out for him.
Yeah, luckily it looks like a pretty continuous incline. Luckily you stopped right there.
Oh!
Turn it off, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off.
Yeah, little more momentum right there, and it could have gone end to end.
yeah, it could have gone different. Well, I texted him before we started recording. I said, Mike, do you want to issue a formal statement? Because I'm going to start the show with that. And he said, yes. He said, here is my statement. Bitch, I'm from Texas. End of statement. So there you go. When's the last time you flopped one, Marvin?
Ooh, myself, honestly, I mean, I rolled my Jeep 2 years, it's 2 years ago when I put the Jeepster on its lid. Then my dad's Jeep shortly after, my dad's YJ, I rolled pretty heavily also. It's almost 2 years ago at this point. I had 1 year there where there was a lot of rollovers, and it was my Jeep and my dad's Jeep back to back. But ever since then, I think I've been pretty good. Not that I can remember, at least. No, nothing.
Yeah, if it happened, you don't remember it, so it doesn't count.
No, yeah, exactly. No, I mean, you know, in the Toyota or other vehicles, like we don't even care. We just lay them over on the side and laugh about it.
Well, before we jump into the interview here, I've got one more bit of housekeeping. I want to play this clip because we've got this event coming up here in a few months at Windrock. So let me cue this one up.
34 years ago, a few trucks rolled into the Smoky Mountains, and a tradition was born. They said it wouldn't last. They said the club would fade. But year after year, we came back. More trails, more challenges, more memories. The rigs got bigger, the trails got wilder, and the G. Smitter family kept growing. Today, this isn't just an event. It's a legacy, a place where stories are told, friendships are forged, and off-road history is made. Now, in 2025, we're making history again. The biggest G. Smitter yet. More trucks, more trails, more adventure. Mark your calendars. Registration opens March 1st.
All right, so I may be slightly biased because I did volunteer to chair the event this year, but as my buddy Kyle says, this is the best shit show this side of the Mississippi, and this will be the 34th year of it, and we hope to uphold that reputation. But on a serious note, it's a great event. We raise a lot of money for some veterans charities and some very important causes. We expect 300 plus trucks. It is a Toyota event, but all are welcome to register. So if you got friends with a Jeep or a Nissan, bring them on. If they can handle being heckled. Say that again, Marvin.
What's the name of the event again?
The event is called the Great Smoky Mountain Trail Ride.
That's what it is.
But it's abbreviated as GSMTR, which has come to be known as G. Smitter.
Trail ride. I'll make a note. I have somebody reach out to me already. It might have been you. I don't know. Somebody reached out to me about it on Instagram to bring the Toyota out for.
I think we did. Yeah, message that before.
I think that's something I have on my calendar. I'm trying to make work. I would love to, dude. Since I've had the Toyota, I didn't really have a chance to branch out and attend a couple Toyota rides, and I really want to. I want to see something new. For us. At this point, it would be awesome to experience some new events, meet some new people, and be around in a new rig. So,
yeah, absolutely. Well, there's not much Toyota left in that truck, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
I don't know what you mean.
All right, Marvin, you have talked on your channel and elsewhere before, kind of about your journey to the States and kind of getting the off-road bug once you got over here. But if I understand correctly, it started even earlier. Did you have like a relative that had a Jeep shop when you were younger that you spent some time working at?
Yes and no. So yes. So,
okay.
But that's not where it started. Like the off-road passion started back in Germany with my dad. My dad bought a YJ when I was born. Had Land Rovers before I was there, and that's kind of where it started in off-road clubs in Germany, and then branched over here once he moved over here when I was 12 years old or something. But then also on a separate note, we had a very dear family friend that it was originally from Germany as well, but made the move to the United States in the early 90s at some point and opened a Jeep shop here, or a Jeep business here in Atlanta. And that's why Atlanta was kind of like our first address, and how we got, because we knew somebody here that, with a good friend that helped us back in the days to get established over here and to kind of catch some roots, so definitely. And he had a Jeep, and now he still has a Jeep shop in Atlanta, pretty successful Jeep shop, Fortec Custom Jeeps. Big shout out to Andreas.
Awesome.
So
all right, that makes sense. So you made the journey over, and then but let me make sure I've got the story right, because you were involved in a few different things before kind of your ventures that we know today.
Correct.
So you and your father had Axle Off-Road that I guess has now become Axle Helmets, and there was kind of some changes.
Still called Axle Off-Road, but he kind of was focusing more on helmets. Back when we did it together, helmets were always kind of the front runner, the main product, but I also put a lot of effort into apparel. So it was kind of apparel and gear. And now he has just boiled it down to mainly the helmets as of right now. So, and he's doing great with it. But yeah, business still around. And in the meantime, in between there, for about 6 years, we operated a really big off-road show that traveled to the United States with like the biggest events we had in Texas at the Texas Motor Speedway, and in Louisville, Kentucky at the Expo Center for several years in a row. Every year we had a little show circus through the country, but those were like the biggest stops we had every year was Texas and Kentucky, and almost 20,000 people in attendance on the weekends, sometimes even more. Wow. Crazy event, crazy times. But so that's the biggest project I've ever had to handle over 6 years, pretty much. Up until COVID is pretty much as long as we pulled through with it.
So were these kind of like expos before expos, and all the overlanding buzz was a thing, or what?
Dude, I don't know. I don't want to say it was expo before expo. It was, I don't know, in my eyes still until today, the only true off-road expo. Like I love that. Truly about off-roading, especially the one in Kentucky, man. I'm telling you, we had Ultra 4 race exhibitions outside, rock bouncer shootouts and backflip competitions, and we built a really, really gnarly obstacle course in the back of the expo center that people could ride on, but also see exhibitions from like the top drivers in all kinds of different off-road categories, put on a show several times a day there. And dude, it was just a good time. So Texas was obviously a little bit more truck oriented, but still had that core element of off-roading. And then we had a couple other smaller shows throughout the country with different focuses. But usually it was all about off-roading, no matter if it was UTV, rock crawler, rock bouncer, overlander, everybody with the same kind of mindset and bug in their head attended those shows. And they were freaking awesome. It was a big blast. You can still check it out on YouTube if you type in Unlimited Off-Road Expo or Unlimited Off-Road Show, Kentucky or off-road. Probably if you type that in, you should already find everything you want to see. It's definitely action-packed. The videos, the highlight compilations we did every year after those shows were always well reviewed. They're just always a blast to watch. There's some cool stuff, some cool off-road history for sure.
Gotcha. I'm gonna have to go back and check those out. So you're doing those, and obviously doing that, you're meeting a lot of people, you're meeting a lot of companies, a lot of manufacturers, all that kind of thing. And is that what kind of morphed into your media business to 0 to 60 and all of that kind of thing?
You got that right. Yeah, good research.
Hey,
that's pretty much, that was, COVID hit. For me, I got burned out from the shows. Like, we were a small team, put a lot of work on our plates, and we're very weather dependent at the end of the day. And at a certain point, I had to go my own ways. And my background is marketing. So like, I then, using the knowledge and the context that I got from the shows to do some side work for some of these companies and get into, working on the other side of the table for the first time, and, working for these companies in marketing and media. And that I did that. It was fairly successful for a good while, and that was actually what was ended abruptly one day of another when COVID really hit, and big companies stopped spending marketing dollars. And then at that moment, I already had a YouTube channel, but really only for fun. Like, there was no intention to ever make this a priority, really. I wanted to monetize it and make it something.
Well, I mean, monetize it from a true business. Yeah,
correct. It wasn't supposed to be my main business for a long time. It was always the dream one day, but I had 6,000 subscribers when I went full time. Like, I do not recommend this to anybody, but it was, because of COVID, and all of a sudden marketing budgets were gone and customers put everything on ice, and I had to act. And that was the only other thing that I had going on and that I was passionate about. It was just kind of shooting. Yeah, dude, I'm just, putting everything on one card pretty much, and had to make it work.
You had a Facebook page for Flex Rocks and Rollovers.
That always was, correct. Flex Rocks and Rollovers that's for years already. It has been a Facebook and Instagram page where I shared viral off-road content, personal weekend adventures, stuff that I experienced, stuff from my friends. I don't know. I think the social media 1.0, like the first iteration of social media, that was a normal thing on the internet, that you had pages out there that would just share niche specific content, not even original content for the most part. Just you grab everything from around the world and share it. That's how you kind of that was kind of a standard procedure for social media back in the days, if you wanted to have content like that. And then eventually I wanted to focus more on my own content, and that led into a YouTube channel. And then, COVID forced me to take the YouTube series channel a lot more serious than I was planning on, a lot sooner. Which I'm thankful for. I mean, it was the best possible scenario at the end of the day. It's something that I really, really enjoyed doing, and that I was doing. In what I'm doing now is exactly what I was doing, before that. Now I'm filming it, So
right.
The Jeep that I have, that everybody knows, that is, that was never a YouTube build. That was not something I built on or for YouTube. I had that Jeep before I started filming. And, I was doing these kind of adventures that I'm doing. That's the funniest thing, honestly. Like, my latest favorite version of Flex Rocks and Rollovers, which is what we have going on right now, and the content we do right now with these multi-day adventures and camping, living out of your rig, depending out with the things that you bring, kind of being dependent on that. And, just that style of wheeling, that's how I started, and then I boiled it down for YouTube, thinking, oh no, we just trailer our Jeeps to, the hardest obstacles we can find and try to, conquer them. And if, things hit the fan, then we just load up a broken Jeep and fix it and go again next time. That right. Honestly gets old after a while. So like, now returning back to my roots of camping and wheeling and living out of my Jeep, and only going as hard as I feel comfortable with if I want to proceed for another 3 days, then that is where we're at right now, and we're having the most fun with, and it seems to be what people seem to enjoy the most, because the videos have been successful. And I don't know, just for us, the vibe we have, between Will and I and our camera guys and the guys that edit the videos behind the scenes, everybody just is loving what we're currently doing. So I'm pumped.
Well, as a viewer, I'm loving it, and it's different in a good way than a lot of what is out there. There's a lot of, I mean, it's a business, and there's a lot of copy paste repeat that goes on YouTube in any niche, whether it's off-road or otherwise.
Right.
But I believe you were talking about your marketing background, and you spent some time in the music business, I know as well. And so that's all about an artist kind of trying to break through from the 1,000 other artists that are doing the same thing. Do you think you've kind of found your sweet spot now? You've kind of got your single going up the charts, if you will.
I hope so. That's what I just got off the phone talking to one of my guys about that. That like now for the first time, I feel like I can calculate and build the business in my head further because I have a baseline to work with. For years, I wasn't, at least for myself, I didn't have that baseline because I was experimenting for such a long time with where's my home with videos. 24 Hallenbach is my, it's my dearest project, what I will put the most work in, but it is such a huge undertaking. I cannot produce 24 Hallenbachs 12 months out of the year. That doesn't work. And it would also kill the format, in my opinion, if you if you flood the market with that stuff. It eventually gets old too. So it's not sustainable.
Talk about that, Marvin, about Hallenbach specifically, and the kind of the behind the scenes, if you will, because not just the planning and the logistics, but are you personally traveling to scout these locations ahead of time? And I would assume if that's the case, that you spend time and money to go to places and then say, it's not quite there.
100%. Yes. And I luckily last year I had a sure shot. The year before that, the Utah one took me the longest to find. I mean, I traveled into far remote areas and then had to say sorry, but it's just not it, and then move on and go to the next place. So as that one, and I mean, it was super worth it at the end. It was absolutely perfect, best possible, but sometimes it just takes a while. And every year I'm going through that, and I have my own standards get higher and higher because for Hallenbach, dude, the scenery and the terrain and the obstacles set the stage for everything.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a lame trail or it looks like something you've seen before or something you've hit before as a driver, man, I don't know, it kind of takes the craziness out of it. If you hit something and everybody is hysteric about where are we? What is this? We're never going to make it out of here. That atmosphere just brings the camaraderie out of it and just a good vibe, and it's, I don't know, it's in my own it's just my own standard for myself that I want to top every year in a certain way. I don't think we need to go any harder than what we've done. We've definitely found our limits when it comes to how much harder can a trail be. But then the challenge is in keeping that level up and finding a good contrast and scenery for next year, that is just as exciting again, or maybe changing something in the concept, why standing still. On one side, I'm a huge fan of don't fix it if it's not broken. But on the other side, I'm a fan of evolving, bringing a new element into it, or just slight changes here and there to keep it interesting, so we will see. But that is all connected with trial and error. It 100% is. And we have some good ideas, and we're listening to what everybody's saying in the comments. And there's a pretty clear trend of what people want to see. I just my experience have told me that it sounds really good on paper, but in practice, it's really hard to make entertaining. So
I see.
That's my current. Yeah. I mean, we can speak open here. A lot of people want to see a small tire 37s max or 35s max 24 Hallenbach budget beaters and whatnot, which I'm a huge fan of, especially now with, you know, the vehicles that we're currently driving and we've currently been creating content with. I'd love to go down that route. But also because I'm currently doing it, and I've been doing it for a long time before even YouTube, I tell you, like, it'll be 24 hours of wrenching and standing still because those damn things break on absolutely everything. And it's just more of a wrench fest. And, you know, it's very painful. This, you know, the massive obstacles you are used to from watching 24 Hallenbach, you know, they look crazy on camera, but let me tell you, they look 1,000 times worse in person. Now, if you scale this down to an obstacle that's somewhat doable on 37s, telling you, for you guys on video, it will look like we're having a field trip on a, I don't know, dirt road behind the house. Like, it doesn't look like anything, you know. So to make that look entertaining, to make medium obstacles look entertaining, is hard. Plus the problem of that small vehicles, if people have the same expectations, you know, to that what they currently have to a 24 Hallenbach, and that is crazy driving and, you know, kind of pushing the limits.
Right.
You just can't do that on a Dana 30. That's just not happening.
Well, sure. And that's it's funny you say that, because I had a group message with some of the guys from Heart of the South, which is a Land Cruiser club out of Huntsville, Alabama. And before I was filming this with you, and that's exactly what they said, is we need this, you know, kind of this everyman's, this 37-inch, 24-hour style format, which that conversation evolved into, well, maybe we just need to go live at Hawk Pride for 24 hours and do it ourselves. And maybe that's, we didn't think about it from a production angle.
Correct.
So you have to think about this business perspective, this production perspective.
You have to make it where people want to watch it. That's my. Right. I want to make things that people want to watch. And is it entertaining to watch a bunch of rigs on 35 struggle and break over blue trails? Like, you know, as mean as that sounds, I love them to death. I just don't know if that is. I don't know. But on the other side, you don't know if you don't try. You know, maybe there's the challenge for us to make that, because there is certain terrain we learned in our recent adventures that are very extreme and very, you can really drive a small rig very hard on, you know, as long as there's not a whole lot of dry rock involved. Dry rock is really what breaks a small stock rig. If you keep the surface you're driving on slick and somewhat muddy and, you know, dirt hills and windy mud holes and whatnot, stuff that is really challenging still, and you need a lot of technical driving and throttle at the right moment, but it's not as hard on your equipment than a rock crawling course, you know.
Yeah.
Either way, that's just all the things that go on in my brain about the future of 24 Hallenbach. You're very welcome.
What else? What do people not know? Like, what is kind of the are there aspects of the company, like you said, having to think about this production and what it looks like in person versus what it looks like on TV, and if it's going to get clicks? Are there things that you have to think about that people don't realize?
No, man, honestly, and like this makes it honestly sound different than the reality is, because reality is that there's things that we really want to do and we're still going to do them, obviously, because we're now feeding several families of this business, that we need to make sure that we're like, hey, we have to keep the business in mind, you know, but we're already doing the 99% of what we're doing are things that we just really want to do. And then we have to argument with ourselves so long until we can make it sound like a smart business move to do it. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of where we're at. That's honestly a little bit more of the truth than it actually is. Like, we do the things we want to do, and if we can sweet talk ourselves into why this really makes sense for the business, then even better.
Strategic planning. Okay, I get it.
Correct.
All right, let's talk about this year's event. I mean, you've said on multiple years, this is the most extreme yet. This is the craziest yet. But I'm telling you, and I'm biased. I'm East Coast biased. But this was the craziest shit you all have ever done.
I agree in a different way than before, you know. But it also, being there and coming out of the events, like after the 24 hours are over, the feeling you have every year is different. Like you have a complete different journey through these 24 hours, depending on the terrain, the group, how your vehicle performed, or how you performed. There's so much that goes into this, and there's such a roller coaster of emotions and feelings and everything, man. Like it is 24 Hallenbeck is like, and I say that every time, but it's a trip of a lifetime every single time. Like it is so unique and so extreme. Like people don't realize that, and people always want to decredit it by, it's just a bunch of YouTubers. It's just a bunch of YouTubers, up until they get to go on the trip. And like, we've had some of the realest of the real participate in the in 24 Hallenbeck and be part of it, and even sometimes just in the passenger seat. And I think everyone that has gone through it can vouch for it, that it is the most brutal thing out there, that there is nothing that even cuts a close second to what you're going through during those 24 hours, even though it is a media production,
right,
which honestly feeds right into that, because the media production makes everything so freaking slow that time sometimes you're either on the verge of a nervous breakdown because of so much adrenaline, or you're just anxious because you're sitting there waiting because everything takes so freaking ever. So like that really it adds to it. The frustration at 4 a.m. when you're just sitting there waiting it totally adds to it.
You can see that in some of the participants, especially as the night wears on, which is good. That's, like you said, it's real and it's raw. And
correct. Everybody hates me at 4 a.m. 4:30. People that have never done this and are around it for the first time, they definitely have a different tone on their voice when they talk to me or to anybody in the media team at 4 a.m. And then once 6 a.m. rolls around, it's all gone and forgotten again. But there's always that couple hours in the night where certain people are just like, bro, what the hell?
Well, hey, that happens amongst the best friends on trail rides, even when there's no cameras involved.
Correct.
So
correct. And it's great, and it's the realest thing ever. And we never, we don't polish any of it. Like you see it the way it happens. So,
well, it's one thing to take a rig like yours, like your Jeep, and basically say we're just going to go out and run buggy trails. And that's a challenge in itself. And like you said, there's a lot of channels that kind of do that. And you can do the same thing. You can, take an IFS rig, something like mine on 35s, and say, hey, we're going to go put it on a trail that should only be, solid axles and 38s. And it'll be a different kind of challenge. But you have an obstacle in this year's event that is just a wall. It is a freaking wall. And
but it was an obstacle on the trail at the end of the day. And I don't know, man. So to finish you, sorry to interrupt you there.
No,
we had a winch challenge in this year's 24 Hallenbeck. We had an obstacle that was 1,000% undrivable. And therefore that made it a million times more appealing that you had to winch it, because we weren't telling you to winch something. Where it's like, hey, what's the point? You were winching this, and it was save the most adrenaline you had all night, but you're hanging off a freaking winch cable.
Dude,
you just conquered some of the steepest hills that you've ever driven, eventually with the support by a winch that already felt awful. And then at right after midnight, you pull up to this 40-something foot waterfall that's 90 degrees, and there's just, the trail does not continue. But like I said, I went to this place many times before Hallenbeck actually started.
Yeah.
And eventually the owner of the property told, we got to this point. I was like, yep, this is where it ends. This is where we turn around and drive back down it. And I was like, what do you mean drive back down it? That's terrible for us. From a production side in a video. Oh, yeah, sorry guys, you just beat the snot out of your equipment. We're going to turn back around, drive this back down. What? So that's super frustrating. And if we wouldn't do this, we would cut out this epic hot dog hill and all that stuff. We would lose all of these obstacles. So so what's ahead? What is if you make it up there and winch up it? I don't know. Nobody's ever been up there. So we met up a separate time again to hike that entire upper section, and the property owner took a day with his buddies to come out with a chainsaw and clear it out just a little bit so we can ride it. And then the very first time we put tires on any of this was during filming of 24 Hellenbach. So that was never pre-ran. We never had a vehicle up there beforehand. So we never winched a vehicle up the waterfall before the video started. None of that. So that was all a first.
Now, did you pre-rig it? And did you have rigging up at the top already before the ride started?
Not before the ride started. No,
oh, okay.
we knew
because that was a lot of rigging, man.
We had so many hardcore obstacles leading up, like walking distance to the hardcore winch wall, that the guys from Warren, Sergio, and Brad that were with us, they had plenty of time to go up there and rig this up in the meantime while waiting for other things to move on. So, yeah, and you can walk around. Like the problem is that it was like a bowl, that the waterfall was in, but eventually you can walk all the way around, like you're literally on all fours climbing up dirt hills and holding onto trees to climb around it, but you can climb around it. And that's what they ended up doing just to get to the top, to put the rigging up. And even the rigging on that we're probably going to release a separate video at some point.
I would love to see that,
going into that a little bit more detailed and how we set that up there. And like we, even the safety rigs, we had 2 different safety rigs up there that had to change in the middle of it because they were holding the rigs on the safety line and was just running winches all night long, burning alternators. So that was a fun one, man. But it was, again, at the beginning, nobody really understood and was not really hating about it, but just thought it was unnecessary up until they were in it. And they're like, dude, this is the most epic thing I've ever done. I've never had that. Like, you never feel like that, And it was awesome. And it had a meaning. We wanted to continue because the trail actually really unfolded afterwards and was really drivable. We just had this massive waterfall in our way. We all got winches in front of the rigs. And like Ricky B said, I spent way too much time overseas. Like, I've seen what people do in race scenarios with winches, and we're not even touching the surface of what these winches are capable of. So let's use them how they are intended, and nobody needs to worry about anything ripping off or breaking off. They can handle way more than what we throw at them.
Well, it was fascinating. It reminded me of an old school like rope elevator, as the vehicles were going up. It
felt like it. You felt like a fish on a fishing pole. You were literally just dangling off the winch line.
Yeah.
There was a few spots in that climb where the rear tires didn't have contact, and you can feel like the whole thing kind of swivel to one side.
That's wild.
Yeah. That was
Marvin, talk to me about you've come up with this wild card entry system.
Yeah.
So obviously you've got sponsors, you've got some returning people, but you always kind of have new faces in the mix as well. How does that work? What are you looking for when people submit to that wild card system?
It really depends, man. Honestly, a good character is the most important thing. Somebody that's good on camera. In either way, like you don't have to be the loudest, craziest guy in the group, but it's just somebody that is comfortable with the camera and is a good character and a unique vehicle of any kind. Which that is not always, like you never know. It might be a super, like just another Jeep, but like the way they did it is really cool and is really a good contrast to the rest. As stupid as it sounds, I even start looking at colors, colors of the vehicle. It's not a big breaking point. It's just another little factor because at the end of the day, like I've learned, and I still do, I still invite people that have terrible colors for what we're doing. But like when you think of a, moment that's a thumbnail worthy, like the absolute highlight moment of the day, and you are shooting in Arizona and the rig that's doing something is tan, you can't make a good, it just doesn't work. Everything blends in. You can't make a good picture out of that because the vehicle blends in with its environment so well that it doesn't pop, Is it a make it or break it point? No, it's just something that I've had a few times now where I'm like, dude, I would have a photo of a lifetime if that freaking vehicle would just have any other color than whatever it's got that blends in perfectly with the background, where you can't use an entire shot for that. Is it a make it or break it thing? No, it's just something that, like I said, there's a million different factors. And then obviously the biggest factor is who do I already have invited? You know, so like you said, there's certain people that are always part of it, you know, and there's people that get, there's somebody like a wild card or people that just get invited to it. And once I have my must-haves done, which I usually have pretty fast, I have like a must-have list done, then I see how I can fill it in to diversify it a little bit. And 90% of the time, it always comes different the week before, you know, like I never plan on having an exclusive Jeep only hell and back. It usually happens that I had, you know, 3 other vehicles, but those are the 3 that canceled last minute, and the only people that could fill the spots happen to drive Jeeps. Like that happened probably more, like at least 2 or 3 times already, where we went from a good diverse group to a almost exclusively Jeep because, you know, people canceled last minute and exactly the rigs that I was counting for some diversity. So.
And then you have 1,000 comments about how you only had Jeeps in the event. Yeah,
correct. But on the other side, like you can have 1,000 wildcard entries. If somebody cancels on you 3 days before the event, trust me, those wildcard and like they have plans. Like, and especially not this year, but a lot of times we shoot from, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday because we need an empty park, you know, depending on where we are.
Right.
And then good luck finding a replacement for, you know, to go wheel Monday morning through Wednesday morning.
Yeah. People have work and life, and you can't just,
So sometimes you got to improvise last minute, and, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, I usually try to diversify it as good as possible to get some, you know, this year at least we had the majority of it was Jeep, but you at least had, you know, a rock bouncer, a rock crawler, a regular trail Jeep, down to an absolutely street legal vehicle on 37s and Dana 44 front axle. Like you had that on the same trail with an 800 horsepower rock bouncer. Like, so I thought
that was wild.
That was kind of my take for this year. If I could, you know, to bring some, and then you had a rear steer rock crawler on, you know, red labels, and it was just kind of, that was my nerdy way of diversifying it this year.
For those first timers, first time doing a hell and back, is there a common mistake, if you will, that you see folks make? Do they come out too strong out of the gate, trying to show off?
So no, I mean the wild card, the 2 wild cards we've had so far, like last year's and the year before, are absolutely, you know, top runners, like absolutely like the underdogs basically of the hell and backs every single time. Did a phenomenal job. But no, honestly, first time mistakes, the biggest mistake is to sit down when you're tired, you know.
There you go.
Even seasoned hell and back veterans do that mistake at a certain point when you're really tired and you want to just sit down for a second, sit in your seat and lay back. Like it's not even about getting a pink helmet because you're falling asleep. The problem is once you fell asleep once, dude, you just want to sleep. Like then you broke the seal of being miserable, you know. So you have to fight that. Being like, when you get tired, fight it by helping out the media team or, you know, spotting somebody, running winch cable. There's always something to do, you know, and just gotta work through that for a minute and force yourself to not sit down, and you'll be just fine. In my experience, once you start slowing down, sitting down, calming down, and closing your eyes for a second, after that, you're kind of ruining it for yourself for the next couple hours because you'll be miserable.
I can see that. All right. So you talked a few minutes ago that you cannot physically, if you wanted to, you can't produce a 24 hell and back every month. It's not possible. So I'm assuming that,
but I don't want to burn it out either. You know,
okay.
For me, what I'm doing now with Hell and Back Adventures and a new format we're about to launch and the international travels, that is for me a perfect round package at the end. Like once a year you get your 24-hour hardest trails we can find. Throughout the year you get entertained with same video quality, same storyline quality, but like, you know, that we tame it down one notch from the trail craziness, but then add the craziness of having to camp out of your rig for 3 or 5 days, you know. Like it depends. Hell and Back Adventures is just as crazy as 24 Hell and Back, but in different ways.
It's a different kind of crazy. That's what I was going to say. And man, your boy Will always seems to get himself in the middle of it. Like always something. Yeah.
He is great. And
Yeah.
it's been so much fun for me also to share all this with a really dear friend that I've had for a long time. And now
That's awesome.
doing these trips with Will together is an absolute blast. We're having a really good time. We have a lot of things in the pipeline right now that are getting edited. We have a little bit of some rearrangements to do within the company right now, of getting some new help with editing and whatnot. So things are a little bit on the back burner right now. We are sitting on a lot of really good content that is just waiting to get out of the editing room, which we're working on it. Everything is under control. We all got it. But I can just tell you guys, we have some really, really cool stuff coming. I'm super excited to launch, and even better plans for the future. So this year is going to be nuts. And we definitely want to make it our goal this year to double up on content from what we had last year. So we've been going through a phase of reinventing ourselves to a certain extent, from weekly releases and rushing that next 20-minute video. Oh man, it's Wednesday already, we need a video for Sunday, better go shoot something. We've done that. We did that for 4 years and killed ourselves over it. It was an awesome time, and I think we had to go through that school to get where we are now. But now I think we learned so much that we know what we want to do and what people want to see from us. And I think the content we are now putting out is exactly what we want to do. Well, now we just got to figure out how to do more of it. That's really where we are right now. We finally found the things we want to do, the formats that we're pumped to produce, and that we're that we feel 100%. Now we just need to, how do we duplicate this and bring out more? So that's where we're currently at. So, and we're very close to having a solution to all of it.
We've talked about the Jeep, and I think most people are familiar with your Jeepster. But let's tell me the story, if you don't mind. I'm sure you've told it a few times on Sushi, on this trip, this wild trip from Seattle to Atlanta in this first gen Toyota pickup. You had several adventures along the way with that. What was the worst part of that trip?
Oh man, the worst part of the trip, dude, there was so much. Being in the middle of nowhere in Oregon, in the high desert, in a slow snow blizzard, where my windshield wipers quit working, so I had to pull over in a rest area to pour fluid on my windshield and kind of a Rain-X, trying to keep things from sticking to my windshield, because I had no more windshield wipers, and it was snowing super hard, and it was I was in the middle of nowhere, and then got back on the ramp, and it was barely accelerating, and as soon as I got onto the interstate, I spun out into the 360 in the middle of the lane and caught myself again driving in the same direction I needed to go, but just had a whole 360 driving out of it right after having a shock because I couldn't see and my windshield wipers wouldn't work. It was just one thing after another, all in this freaking blizzard.
Was there a point right there that you were like, did you ever think, nope, this isn't worth it? It's not worth the content. It
wasn't even on camera. None of the big lesson I learned from that trip, which is really dumb if you ask me. That also shows how we make our videos, because I wanted to do this and then try to make it work for a video. You know what I mean? So I learned right there, doing this by yourself I didn't have anybody with me. There was nobody in the passenger seat. I can't film when things are happening. I can only film the boring parts. When things are happening, I'm usually busy
yeah, right.
with them. So I learned that the hard way on that trip, that a lot of good story was lost because I was busy executing. I couldn't film and execute at the same time if you're driving on public roads or whatever, So that was the one thing that I regretted, was man, I went through all these awesome, I had so much more cool story that I couldn't tell because of a lack of footage, So it is what it is, but it was a wild trip. I learned a lot about carburetors, let me tell you. A lot.
Well, all right. Speaking of that carburetor, so for those that haven't followed on your channel, the old 20R didn't stay in there long.
No.
And you made a rather unorthodox choice to replace it. And the Toyota purist of the world, they had some choice comments on that, as they always do. But even the Jeep guys were probably scratching their head on this choice. So
honestly, I got way less bad feedback than I thought. I thought world is going to end, and I'm gonna like it's either going to go viral or people are going to hate me forever, and it didn't do either of them. So it's like really not. I don't know. I thought it was just a good swap, honestly. So long story short, what we ended up doing is we threw out the 20R, carbureted 20R motor that was in it. It had a completely worn out 4-speed transmission, and then a stock transfer case, like no doubler, no gears done, nothing,
right.
stock. Well, we took all of that out and replaced it with a 3.8 V6 out of a 2007 Jeep JK. So it has a 3.8 out of a JK in it now, with a 6-speed manual transmission, which that's where the spicy sauce happens on that motor, with a South Bend clutch, like a little bit like the right upgrades done to it.
Yeah.
And a Rubicon 4-to-1 transfer case behind it. So it has a full Jeep drivetrain in it. Then, because it's driver drop, had a different front axle. Now I have a trail gear front axle housing that brings everything to the driver's side. And that's it. Hot wire harness makes a full harness and ECU kit, plug and play, standalone. You can buy and just plug it up like you would with your LS or your Hemi or whatever. I have the exact same kit in my Jeep for my Hemi. So lucky enough that same company makes a full standalone kit for the 3.8. Works great. And honestly, that's it. Some Tom Woods drive shafts and South Bend clutch we threw in there. That's it, man. And now she's like, we just did our first 4-day adventure in it that you guys are going to see on YouTube soon. So
okay, well there's the spoiler. So because last you kind of left us in limbo. I believe Sushi was sitting in the shop and you had to go somewhere, and yeah.
And we had a bunch of. I mean, the swap itself was done rather quickly to a point where she was running and driving. I did it with Ian Johnson at his Big Tire Garage. So all the credit to him for coming up with the swap and doing most of the work on it. But he there's gotta be little shitty things that you need to figure out afterwards. And like we had fuel issues. We didn't want to swap a JK fuel tank into this thing. We wanted to make it work with the Toyota fuel tank. And it just, I mean, the fuel pump overheated, the fuel filters clogged up. We had nothing but problems with the fuel system over many visits. And Ian is 4 hours away from me. So it was always like me driving out there, staying for a couple days, seeing how much progress we can make until I run out of time and I get busy with something else and I have to drive back. And then we have to find another, appointment when we're both free to work on this thing again. So that's why it kind of just drug on, because we're both busy with other things. It's not our only priority to work. And obviously I'm a little bit under Ian's mercy as well. Like, it's also his baby. Plus I want him to be involved in it. So he's busy. He's a very busy man. So we need to figure out whenever we can find time to do it. And now we finally got it figured out. So we've had many visits and many test and tune sessions, and we had to have it figured out. And we just took her on our first 4-day adventure. It definitely, I don't want to say too much. You're in for a treat. You definitely guys got to watch that. And there's a lot of consequences that come out of this video in that regard. But you gotta watch.
There's your teaser. Your teaser.
But yeah, super. The swap itself is badass. That's all I can say. I'm like a little something I can say is coming out of a trail with it now in our recent adventure on a dirt road, loose gravel dirt road. Like it was a Monday morning, so we didn't really have to fear too much traffic. So we were going a little bit faster. 4th gear, foot down, things still come sideways. I mean, it is massively overpowered.
I like how you had to put a disclaimer before you describe that little episode. Yeah.
Dude, it's violent. It is very, very, very fast. So that a motor drivetrain that is extremely underpowered in a 6,000-pound JK is the wildest setup ever in that little Toyota. I mean, it's violent, and it's so great because they are everywhere. Nobody wants these motors, like people will pay you to pick them up. Like Jeep shops that do engine conversions, they will give you money to finally pick them up and get them out of their hands, because they don't know what to do with them. So, yeah, you can pick him up for a decent deal. And it seems to be, once we have it all figured out, I think I'm pretty pumped about it, man. I'm pretty freaking excited about it. It's
Yeah, because I know Ian had to basically make an oil pan, but all the accessories and everything on the front, you didn't have any issues, correct?
No,
Yeah.
even transmission cross member lined up.
Yep.
I mean, transmission, like the shifter goes through the same hole as the Toyota shifter when everything seemed to line up way too well. But yeah, we had to massively customize the oil pan, which that is still something we're going to tweak on now afterwards a little bit more. But that's just part of the trial and error thing, honestly, so it's a really it's a really cool truck. I can't wait to show you guys more about it. And it's a really, I don't know, kind of an underdog,
Marvin, one question on the switching back to the Jeepster, because I wanted to make sure I got this in. I know you love that Jeep. There seems to be, maybe I'm wrong, but there seems to be a love-hate relationship with that Hemi.
Dude, everybody isn't just always, as soon as I have problems with that Jeep, everybody is blaming the motor for it. That is something I've been noticing. Like, I can have, like, I clearly had fuel issues during hell and back, and I mentioned that we changed the fuel filter, we changed the fuel pump, we cleaned the fuel filter, we did all these fuel-related things, and everybody in the comments blames the Hemi for like a poor performance on this trip. It was never the motor. The motor is 100% fine. I had fuel problems. Okay, so no matter what motor I have in there, I would have had the same issues. So the problems that I've had
was fuel delivery.
Was all fuel related. It was first a clogged up fuel filter, then later on the fuel pump itself was bad, even though it still had the right amperage and it had in idle the fuel pressure we needed. That's why we never changed it until very late in the hell and back, because I have a fuel pressure regulator with a gauge on it. I can see my fuel pressure, but obviously only when we're idling, right? Or we only checked idle. My mistake, I guess, learned from that one. But it was cutting out as soon as you were putting RPMs to it. And that was obviously what you saw in the video. As soon as you crossed the 3,000 RPM mark, it was just bogging down. And once we replaced the fuel pump, all the issues went away. It ran like a champ, and then it immediately broke elsewhere. So and then I lost a freaking front. I broke a limit strap from the front suspension, which caused the side to droop down too much axle wrap in the front suspension, broke the yoke, broke the front drive shaft. Didn't immediately realize it because it was 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. and no sleep and dark, but then later on realized why I broke the drive shaft and was all that. So I love my Jeep, man, but she's getting old. That's the only thing I can say. I can't even be mad at it. This thing has gone through hell and back many times. And it's 8 years old now. So since we built her, it's 8 years. 8 years of a very rough life. So at a certain point, things are just getting tired, And I'm even aware, dude, limit straps have an expiration date. Like, your limit straps you have on your suspension, they're not buy ones, cry ones. Like, they have an expiration date. I always thought, dude, it's a freaking trail rig. It's a wheeler. Like, and we're not racing this thing. Like, it'll be fine. But sure enough, 8 years on the same limit straps, eventually they will break, and they did. So,
well, you were not the first person to do that. I don't know of anyone that is checking the expiration dates on their limit straps. Right. But to your point, yeah, it happens.
Yeah, and obviously the front suspension, just the way it was set, it was never perfect, so it's not supposed to lean so much into the limit straps where the whole geometry gets thrown off once the limit strap's broken. Like, it's supposed to limit your travel, but not be an essential part of the geometry of your suspension, so to say. Something that has once a limit strap breaks, your suspension shouldn't collapse, so to say. So
right,
if that makes sense. But yeah, anyways, it's at Carnage Motorsports right now. Will took the Jeepster under his umbrella after 24 hell and back, and is getting a rebuild. So we're currently throwing an RPM suspension under it. So the same suspension that Will has under his JK is going into the Jeepster, because for those that don't know, the Jeepster has a TJ frame under it, at least up until the seats. The rest has a custom back half. But the majority of it is a TJ frame, and RPM offers TJ suspension. So Will is just tweaking it enough to make it work with the Jeepster, which really isn't that much, it seems. And then we're going to throw a bunch of big 2.5 coilovers. We're working with Bielstein on a full new coilover and bump stop setup. And Will really wants to front half it and cut the whole front of the frame off and put a new front half on it to basically raise the front up higher to have more up travel.
Okay.
So he is working on all that. You guys should check out Carnage Motorsports on Instagram, or Mr. Carnage. And
Yeah, he's a great follow on there.
He is definitely a good follow. Definitely one I can recommend. Hilarious, really knowledgeable Jeep guy. Has an off-road shop in Miami called Carnage Motorsports. And he's currently reworking the Jeepster. And we'll hope to have it back by Easter Jeep Safari with the whole all new suspension and eventually slightly different look, because the front definitely, like, bumper will be gone. A lot of things that kind of, dress up the face of the Jeep will be slightly different. So it'll
get a little makeover.
Yeah. Will's Jeep were handled so well, I have to say. Like, wheeling with him now for, like, as consistent as I have been on so much hard stuff, and it was just us next to each other where I can see how his stuff performed versus my stuff. And the RPM suspension, dude, like, the way he sets them up and just the way they are designed are just a really, really, really solid product. And, like, dude, his Jeep is so freaking stable. Like, it has gone through trails that it really shouldn't have gone through. And it's a really good setup. So I'm pumped to get that kind of performance into my Jeep.
That'll be cool. It is in good hands down there. Absolutely. Yeah. Marvin, let's talk briefly about your kind of some of these global adventures. So you went the Rainforest challenge, folks. If you're not familiar with the channel, just go start with one of these Rainforest challenge videos. You talk about wild stuff. I started to say it's unlike anything you'll see here, and that's not an exaggeration. It's a totally different experience. And so you guys went over there basically, I believe, on like media passes for the event. Are you serious about going back and either building or renting or driving a car?
I'm working almost every day on that for 2 years since we went, dude. I have no idea. I'm dedicating way too much time on that, because it's like another one of those things that I really want to do, and hopefully the content works out. Like, that's just something I'm pressing on doing, and I'm just I don't make it a freaking secret that I'm sure I'm not a builder. Like, I know my way around as much as I have to, but I'm not a builder. So for me to build a Rainforest car is a big undertaking. It requires a partnership with somebody like Will, or somebody that knows how to build a vehicle. With my input, I know the substance and what this vehicle needs to be, and I have enough knowledge about the subject to have a big influence on the car, but the executing manpower behind it to actually build it, I need a partner for that. So, and I don't think I'm in a point or position right now or yet where I can build a car for one race out of the year on the other side of the world. Like, it's just, as much as I want to do it, it's extremely, and I've gone down so many routes. So we've gone down from trying to build one here and ship it over there to building a car there. I was very close to signing something that made us pick up an existing project from somebody in Malaysia that is trying to get out of it, and we would basically buy the project and finish it in Malaysia. And now we're back to renting a car in Malaysia for next year or for this year. We are back and forth we just need to weigh our options, because every option is expensive and has a rat's tail of responsibilities and expenses. So it will happen in one way or another.
So this goes back to what you said earlier about when you have your strategic planning meetings, and we're going to find a way to make this thing work as a business
Correct.
idea.
There's no point of me having to race this. The video was wildly successful, and we were there on media passes, like you said. Like, we weren't actually racing. So it were like what we did there was obviously right, and people felt entertained by it. So there's really no need for us to race it. Plus, if we're driving in the car, we can't film. So that has a huge rat's tail of making this work out for a video is going to be expensive. I need another cameraman outside the truck, and good luck finding somebody that wants to live through this for 10 days. There is no, I'm going to do like 3 days and I'm going to go to the hotel and then I'll come back. No, bro, like you want to be into this, like you're going to suffer through the same things that you saw in our video. No matter if you're the video guy or the water boy or whatever, like that is your experience. So finding somebody that's crazy enough that to do this, like even from just a media perspective to film us is crazy.
Oh yeah, when he says suffer, folks, it is suffrage. It is not. The media does not go back to the Marriott at night and then come back in the morning.
Slept in the jungle on cots for 10 days under tarps that were held up by winch lines, and in the rainforest, like elephants walking through our camp at night, and taking a shower in a infested river that when you come out you have freaking leeches the size of your thumb hanging off your body and whatnot, like that kind of stuff. So but dude, I crave nothing more. I want to go back so bad. Like we had such an epic time there. So again, long story short, I'm currently, after all these iterations of building a car here, building a car there, renting a car, now we're back to maybe renting a car to compete in this year. And then I'm hoping to be able to build a new vehicle for the channel for myself within the next year or two, like a new like the next iteration of the Jeepster, start something in that ballpark. And when I do that, I will keep the Rainforest Challenge in the back of my head and plan certain things where I'm like, dude, if I want to ship this thing across the ocean, across the world, and have a car, it might not be made for it, but like, certain things are maybe set up where I can run either or, where I make sure that if I build a new car, that I can pack it with winches that would be compatible, with what they have over there.
Dude, you are passionate about making this work. I can tell.
I am. I want to do it. I want to. I mean, like the whole Rainforest Challenge itself. So what I can also spoiler here is like we went back to another one, but we didn't go to Malaysia. We went to Colombia the next time. So last year, that's the next video that will come out. It's like we're a little bit in a delay with it. William and I went to Colombia and did Rainforest Challenge Colombia in the jungle of South America for 5 days. So that one was 5 days versus 10 days, but still absolutely nuts. So that is the next video that's coming out. But therefore we were also just on a media pass, but we had friends this time that were racing that we knew had connections with over Instagram. So Sergio and Brad from 24 Hellenbeck were also there.
Okay.
We all went together. It was a wild trip. So that's coming out next. But like, I want to continue this on. Rainforest Challenge is my favorite style of racing so far. Like I've been around Southern Rock racing, rock bouncing. I've been around Ultra 4, mega truck racing, side-by-side racing, rock crawling. I've seen it all. And like, the one thing that really got my blood pumping and where I had like FOMO that I want to participate was Rainforest Challenge, So I want to make it work one way or the other, and even shipping my own rig over there essentially, or hopefully making it work with a rental car beforehand. Rental car, just to say that on top of it, is just also really hard because I'm 6'3" and the guys over there are 5'8".
They're a little bit. Yeah,
that's the problem. So the cars that are up for rent, dude, I don't fit.
Yeah.
So that's another issue, honestly, and like that's what I'm currently dealing with. Like we can have a really good car, but the dude that drives it, that owns it, is like 5 foot on a good day, Right. So it's like.
Yeah, I get it. Also, speaking of international, you went to that event in Honduras.
Yeah, that was really fun. That was right after. It was crazy. It was right after Malaysia. I wasn't even like didn't even arrive really back home yet. No, I already went to that one. I wish I could have spaced that out a little better for it to stand more for. I feel like it fell into the shadow of Malaysia a little bit because it was right in the same time frame. But it was so cool and so unique and so different from Malaysia. So like also a really, really good video.
Well, what it was to me, it reminded me of the old 4-wheeler Top Truck Challenge videos, but instead of a bunch of separate events like the tank trap and the mud pit and these separate events, it's one giant course that you run in one shot with all these different kind of obstacles.
Correct.
Do you think there's a market or a place for us to see things like that here in the States?
I really would love to, man. If I have the opportunity one day to own some land or something to do something like that, I would love to.
Yeah.
What they told me is that a couple of guys that were there that, you know, are familiar with the US are like just saying, dude, it's just an insurance thing. Like, you know what I mean? With the crowd being there, but you can even eliminate the crowd and just do it for YouTube. It's always an insurance thing. I can get around certain stuff like that by doing it for YouTube and, you know, making it where you're not paying an entry fee and you're not winning anything. At that point, you're 100% voluntarily participating.
Yeah.
But you're taking away the whole competition sense at that point, because it is just, if there's nothing on the line, people just, it's different, you know? So I don't know. I would love to make something like that work. The energy there was out of this world, you know.
Yeah, that's
all the course cheering somebody on. You see everything, and like you said, you had big rock piles, mud pit, off center. You know, you had all these different disciplines and obstacles right in a row from each other. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's I could get behind that. I would love to see an event like that anybody can register for, multiple different classes, and just a multi-day. How was it over several days? I assume
it was a whole
multi-day party.
Yeah, it was a Friday through Sunday thing. I think it was a weekend. Yeah, we obviously cut it a little short by showing it on video, but
well, hey, listen, Marvin. Before I let you go, we've got 5 kind of rapid fire questions that I want to run through here. So. Number 1, we ask everybody this one. Favorite off-road trail snack?
Oh my God, Lunchables.
Oh, okay. Is there a particular Lunchable combo, or you'll just
ham cheese one? The very standard.
Oh, okay. All right. So you're old school Lunchable. Got it.
Old school Lunchables. Yeah.
If you could only listen to one artist or one album while you're out on the trail for the day, what are you putting on?
I don't listen to music on the trail, man. It's really engine sounds and everything. Any cracking or anything that sounds suspicious is what I'm listening to when I'm on the trail. I'm not listening to music. As much of a new music nerd I am, but on the trail, dude, I had speakers on my Jeep for a short period of time, never used them, didn't even notice that they blew at a certain point that, you know.
Oh, you just took them off?
Just took them off again because I'm just like I'm listening to what the car is doing and not what I can't focus on music. So
fair enough. All right. Very important question here. DeWalt or Milwaukee?
Oh, Milwaukee. Honestly, for home tools, I have all DeWalt for home tools, but for trail stuff, the Milwaukee stuff is just like, I don't know what has gathered more, but dude, whatever I can find.
Whatever you can use at the time, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, so here's a good one for you especially. Manual or automatic for off-road?
For off-road, automatic. I love manual for road driving, but for off-road, I prefer automatic.
Okay.
More, I can focus more on what's important, more on the wheeling, and it's less hard on your drivetrain with clutching in and whatnot. Like everything is a little bit smoother. You can drive a little bit more technical. You don't have a little it has its perks. There's like Will swears of running manual off-road, but like, dude, there's a reason why comp buggies and race cars in off-road, none of them run manuals. It's not that great. You're definitely not putting yourself in favor over it. Like, you definitely have a harder time. Is it more fun? Probably, maybe. Like Sushi is manual, you know. So
right.
when I wheel Sushi, I wheel manual. It's not that I can do it, but it's definitely a lot more to do, a lot more distraction from what you're actually needing to do, and it's a lot harder on your drivetrain every time.
And then you get on that hill in that off-camber situation, and you're trying to, you're like a kid learning to drive again. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you need to finesse something, or you're at a tipping point, and you need to the clutch. If you clutch in too hard, then you're done. You shake up everything. Everything is you're not putting yourself in. You're not doing yourself favor with manual, but whatever you prefer, whatever is more fun to you.
All right. So, Marvin, you're from Germany, but you've lived in the South. You've lived in Georgia for a long time now. So I think this question is valid. Bigfoot, real or mythical?
Mythical, I would say. Bigfoot, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not feeling it, dude. I'm not feeling it. Like,
I hope you run into him out there on the trail.
I hope so too, dude. Hey, I'm totally down. Prove me wrong, dude. I'm down. I'm here for it. Prove me wrong, but I like the Yeti in the snow and the Bigfoot in the mountains and whatever, you know.
Awesome. Well, listen, man, I appreciate it. I hope we'll see you out on the trails at some point. Potentially get Sushi up to G-Smitter and.
Dude, I'm hoping to make that happen. That'd be really cool. So
awesome.
Thank you. Good.
All right.
Fun. This was great.
Good times.
Awesome. Then,
all right, guys.
Thanks for having me, guys. Definitely appreciate it. Check us out from YouTube, Flex Rocks, Rollovers, Instagram, all that good stuff. So, yeah. Thanks for having me.
See you now.